Greetings, true believers, and welcome to another immortal episode of History of the Marvel Universe. Today's tale begins in the ancient mystical city of Kunlun. Located in a dimension parallel to ours, this city is a place where warriors train, honing their bodies into living weapons under the watchful eye of Lei Kung, the Thunderer. Sometimes a warrior would prove themselves worthy enough to face the immortal dragon Shou Lao the Undying and gain the power of the Iron Fist. Furthermore, although Kunlun was sealed off from the world we know, every 10 years the walls between dimensions would blend together, and at a specific point in the Himalayas, for a brief time, the fabled city could be accessed. Throughout the centuries, warriors blessed with the might of the Iron Fist would use this opportunity to come to Earth and employ their skills in the fight against evil. Such was the case with a man named Orson Randall, who did so during World War I. After that conflict ended, Orson Randall remained on Earth, eventually taking on an apprentice, an orphan boy named Wendell Rand. From Orson, Wendell learned of the hidden realm where Kunlun was located, and of the power known as the Iron Fist. However, despite Wendell's skill, Orson assured him he would never be worthy of the power he desired. This did not deter Wendell, however, and upon coming of age, when the time was right, the young man went out in search of the Dimensional Gateway. Upon entering the mystic realm, Wendell came upon two men being accosted by the dragon Shou Lao, who had wandered from his lair. Wendell fired upon Shou Lao, the bullet doing little more than annoy the serpent, which struck Wendell aside and slithered away. The injured man was brought into the city, where he was nursed back to health by a woman named Shikari. When Wendell awakened after 4 days of healing, he was greeted by the masked visage of Lei Kung, the man who trained Kunlun's warriors, including Orson Randall. The Thunderer immediately recognized Wendell's martial arts and welcomed him into his temple. Furthermore, it turns out the two men that Wendell had rescued upon arrival were Tuan, who held the title of UT, ruler of Kunlun, and his son, Nuan. As thanks, Wendell was adopted by Tuan into the House of Kai. As time rolled on, Wendell also grew close with Shikari, much to Nuan's jealousy. Wendell and Shikari eventually married, and together they had a daughter named Miranda Rand Kai. Wendell also found a friend and rival in Lei Kung's son, Davos. The two men competed for the right to face Shou Lao and become the next Iron Fist, but ultimately, despite Davos's refusal to surrender, Wendell Rand was declared the victor. However, when the time came to claim his prize, Wendell turned away, Orson Randall's words of discouragement echoing in his head. Not only that, but tragedy struck when Wendell and Shikari were exploring outside the city some time later. The two were attacked by the Hylthri, the plant-like creatures which lived outside the city walls, and Shikari was fatally struck. On that day, 10 years after he first arrived, Wendell Rand Kai was consumed by grief and shame, and left the fabled city of Kunlun. Life on Earth then was comparatively easy for someone who had survived the rigorous mental and physical training of the Thunderer. Within a year, Wendell Rand had started a successful company with his business partner, Harold Meacham. He married a woman named Heather Duncan and fathered a son named Daniel. However, he could never truly forget the hidden city. And so, 10 years after he left, Wendell returned to the Himalayas in search of the bridge to Kunlun. This time, however, he did not come alone, as his family and business partner insisted on coming along as well. However, things went wrong when, while crossing a natural bridge, the ground gave way beneath them and the Rands tumbled down. Heather and Danny landed on a lower section of snow, relatively uninjured, while Wendell hung on for dear life above a rocky pit. Wendell begged Meacham for help, but the crafty businessman saw this as an opportunity to take full control of their shared company. Crushing Wendell's hand beneath his boot, Harold Meacham forced his friend to fall, and 9-year-old Danny Rand witnessed his father's body dash against the rocks below. Meacham offered to take Heather with him, confessing to have loved her, but of course the widowed woman wanted nothing to do with her husband's killer. Meacham then left the woman and child alone in the snowy mountains. The two pushed onward, desperately searching for some escape from their chilling fate. However, they would not remain alone as a hungry pack of wolves found their trail. Fleeing from their animal pursuers, Heather and Danny came across a bridge, the first sign of civilization for miles. However, Heather knew the snarling beasts would be upon them before they could make it across. And so, while Danny continued to run away, his mother ran towards the wolf pack, sacrificing herself so that her son could escape. This bought Danny enough time to make it across the bridge, where sentries from Kunlun emerged to rescue him. The orphan boy was brought into the Magic City, where he met Nu An, who had taken his father's place as UT, the ruler of Kunlun. And so the son of Wendell Rand, burning with the desire for revenge, was welcomed into the city, and he too began training under Lei Kung the Thunderer. During his time there, Daniel's closest friends were a boy named Connell Du Sien and Miranda Rand Kai, who Danny didn't know was his half-sister. Ultimately, though, a thirst for vengeance against Harold Meacham is what spurred Danny on in his training, always seeking more strength. For all his accomplishments, he was never satisfied, and approached UT in search of avenues of greater power. UT then permitted Daniel Rand to compete for the right to face Shou Lao the Undying. The serpent had been cursed to forever stand guard over the molten heart that was ripped from its own body, and after defeating his rivals in fair combat, Danny Rand was allowed to confront it. While Danny's strikes each hit their mark, they seemed to do no real damage to his serpentine opponent. However, he realized that the dragon-shaped scar from which Shou Lao's heart was removed held the key to victory. It was through the glowing mark that Shou Lao absorbed the mystic energies that fed his immortality. By pressing his own body against the mark, Danny was able to effectively smother the dragon, temporarily killing it. This also permanently marked Daniel, as the shape of the dragon had been burned into his chest. His task completed, he entered the cave to claim his prize. Approaching the glowing brazier, he plunged his hands into the dragon's molten heart. And when he pulled them out, Daniel Rand was transformed. He had obtained the legendary power of the Immortal Iron Fist. However, not everyone in Kunlun was happy for Daniel's success, and Marin, the man who would have faced Shou Lao had Danny not defeated him, assembled a gang and attacked the new Iron Fist. Fortunately, a masked warrior came to Daniel's aid along with his friend Connell, and the attackers were defeated. However, Danny's masked benefactor was exposed during the fight and revealed to be none other than Miranda Rand Kai, which was a problem because women were forbidden from learning martial arts in Kunlun. By instructing her, Connell had broken the city's sacred laws, and so, rather than face the punishment of having their very identity stripped from them, Connell and Miranda chose to leave together. Danny went after them, but outside the city limits, he was trapped and captured by the plant-like Heil-3. Worse than that, the Heil-3 had already captured Miranda and Connell before Danny could reach them. With his friends in danger, Danny's hands began to smolder with radiant energy, and for the first time he utilized the power of the Iron Fist. He fought his way to the pods containing his friends, but the Heil 3's poisonous attack slowed him down, preventing him from saving them. While Danny did not learn the secret truth behind her words until later, as Miranda faded away, she called him brother. After this, the time came for Danny Rand to face his final test. He would have to fight the mighty Shu-Hu. Danny was faster than the gigantic warrior, but it seemed that none of his precise strikes did any real harm. However, as the fight went on, Danny discerned the secret to his overpowered opponent. And so, with the power of the Iron Fist, Danny Rand defeated Shu-Hu, exposing the warrior as a mechanical construct. And so, Danny earned the right to eat the fruit of the Tree of Immortality and remain in Kunlun forever. But through all his successes and failures in the Mystic City, he still had but one goal: to avenge his family. UT understood, but warned Daniel against giving in to hatred, lest it corrupt his soul. Before Danny left, UT also revealed that he too mourned the loss of Wendell Rand, as the two were in fact brothers. And so, 10 years after he first arrived, Danny Rand, now the Iron Fist, left the sacred city and returned to Earth. He reached New York City and entered the towering headquarters of Meacham Industries. However, it seems Harold Meacham anticipated Danny's return and had 10 years to prepare, adorning the halls leading to his office with deadly traps. None of them, however, were able to stop the Iron Fist, and Danny fought his way through floor after floor, obstacle after obstacle, defeating all those who stood before him. Finally, Danny reached the office of Harold Meacham and prepared to take his long-awaited revenge. However, what he saw before him was not the sinister, threatening villain he had been expecting, but a broken, legless old man. Yes, it seems after murdering Wendell Rand, Harold Meacham had lost his own way in the mountains and passed out. By the time he was rescued by travelers from Nepal, the frostbite had already claimed Meacham's legs. Furthermore, while recovering, Meacham overheard the locals talking about the boy from America who had successfully passed through to Kunlun and was training under Lei Kung. And that's how he knew to prepare, as Meacham spent 10 years in fear of the Iron Fist. In the end, however, Meacham accepted that he deserved his fate, and was ready to die. Danny, on the other hand, could only pity the old man. He knew that Meacham had spent the last decade suffering because of his actions and greed, and that killing him now would accomplish nothing. And so Danny Rand turned his back on his father's killer, leaving him to his fate just as Meacham had once left him. However, Meacham's desire to die was soon answered by a mysterious ninja seeking to frame the Iron Fist. His death knell drawing Iron Fist back, Danny discovered Meacham's lifeless body. Danny was, in turn, discovered by Meacham's daughter, Joy, who blamed him for her father's death. While Danny eventually proved his innocence, it was this mystery that drew the Iron Fist into the life of a costumed hero. A life where he made not only enemies, but close friends and allies, such as Colleen Wing, Misty Knight, and of course, the man who would become his best friend and partner in heroism, Luke Cage. And that's the origin of the Iron Fist. But thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like, leave a comment, and share it on your favorite social media. As always, the issues referenced in this video are listed in the description below if you would like to read them for yourself, as well as links to other places you can find me. So until next time, true believers, Excelsior!